How's it going, everybody? It is Ice Bear Gaming here. I kind of wanted to give my general thoughts and opinions over the past year of Destiny 2, especially with, with the episode launches and the final shape. And I know this is a little bit late, especially with the final shape dropping back in June of this past year. But with the episodes kind of falling flat and with just kind of the general state of the game, as like a person who's not like a big content creator and doesn't really play much of Destiny as like as my main game anymore, I just wanted to give you like an outside perspective of someone who's not a big content creator who does this for, a living's thought and like inside look into the game itself from my point of view. So final shape dropped in June of 2024, and the final shapes launch was kind of bad. The serviceability was terrible, constant queue issues, and the game's constantly crashing, buggy quests. We had a lot of issues just trying to go through and play the first couple of hours, and I even took off work that night to sit down and stream it because it was the last hurrah of the big Light and Darkness saga. It felt kind of like a flop. Like, the story was good, don't get me wrong. I love the story, even with its issues and plot holes and the general kind of consensus with the story. Everybody was like, okay, this is the end. We just got to do a couple of quest cleanup. The raid's going to be dropping here later this week. We're going to finally go through and kill the Witness. But we didn't end up killing him in the raid. We only weakened him. And then we did that 12-player activity, which was awesome. That was probably one of the cooler things that they ended up doing for the last hurrah. If you haven't played it yet, I won't really spoil it if you're still working on it or what have you. It ends on a fairly sad note. Now with Echoes and Revenant kind of being in the game, I didn't really play through Echoes and I didn't really play through Revenant. I've seen clips, I've seen story beats and everything, how Maya Sundaresh was the main big bad of Echoes, and Fickrell finally dying because we stabbed him with a stake that made him mortal. We were able to go through and kill him, and Aramis going through and taking over the Echo and going back to Reese, or going and rebuilding Reese, and she just leaves the Soul System. I kind of wanted to go over more of the kind of like the sandbox and just the overall like abilities, combat, and all the modes that we have in the game, and kind of compare it to how Destiny 1 was and comparing it to what we have now. And I would still say Destiny 1, in my opinion, is still a way superior game. Destiny 2 has better quality of life improvements and better like build crafting and everything. Like, everything that Destiny 2 has is definitely better than Destiny 1 with the build crafting and everything to that extent. But the way Destiny 1 is now, you have no content in the game. You're not getting any support to any of the the main playlist like Strikes, Nightfalls, Crucible, Gambit, or adding new things. Like, the only new thing that we got was that Wave Horde defense mode back in Into the Light, which was honestly one of my favorite times to get back into the game. We also had the Pantheon that dropped that same at that same time when we were going through that raid gauntlet, which I never had a good enough team to actually do it, to go through and actually finish it completely, because everybody just kept abandoning. Like, we would either have people abandon or be like, okay, we made like a decent group, we just have to really commit, we'll get on the next day and do it. Everybody would bail. Everybody would just start doing it with other random teams, even though we're like, okay, we're going to be on at this time tomorrow. Okay, sounds good, I'll be on around that time. Nobody would get on, or everybody would be doing it with a different raid team and they would get it done and then just leave us behind. Strikes and just like the general content in the game, in my opinion, is way too fucking easy now. Like, Strikes, dummy, stupid easy. You can turn off your brain and just go in there and you're fighting with kills with randos and everything, and they're pretty much rocking the same kind of build setup where they're nuking rooms with their abilities. There's not really much of a focus on gunplay that much anymore in builds. It's mostly all just ability spam based, and there's not enough mods that support like other build diversities with helping with gunplay and stuff, other than the surge mods by giving you more damage and everything, which that's fine, but you're already doing a lot of damage to a basic enemy, where back in Destiny 1 you had normal strikes and heroic strikes, so you were able to go through, like, heroic strikes back in Destiny 1 were fairly challenging, and if you were, caught lacking, you would get mowed over, especially if you compare it to most of the old Destiny 1 strikes, like the one where you're dealing with that Archon priest and you're having to deal with the ogre and having to train him around the room while dealing with the boss that can just focus fire you, and then whenever the boss gets down to about half health, the ogre goes in rage mode, so you're constantly having to run away from him and deal with the guy using the ogre's eye just focus firing you all the time, and dealing with shanks that were falling from the ceiling. And if you were doing that on the Nightfall, it was a struggle getting that done, but it was decent challenge. It wasn't artificial challenge like we have now in Destiny 2, where you have the champion system limiting you to using specific weapons in the artifact tree, like, okay, I can't do damage to this person because they get a fucking shield or they regen their health, or I'm doing less damage to them because I have to stun them in some way, shape, or form. That's not fun gameplay. Ever since they introduced the champion system, I was like, okay, this could be interesting, but we'll see how it plays out. And ever since they released it back in Shadowkeep of, 2019, I have not enjoyed it. Like, I gave it a couple months, I tried it, and it's just not fun. The champions in the game are just worthless. They're artificial challenge, and they do a lot of damage, they regen all of their health, and if you're playing with randos that don't know how to fucking stun a champion, it makes it even harder. Quite honestly, I wish they would go back to more of like the older Nightfall system like in Destiny 1, where you were just dealing with higher health targets, like you were dealing with more like orange and yellow bars, dealing with more mini boss and major type enemies, where they have a little bit more health, but they weren't sitting there eating a ton of bullets either. And then you have Crucible, which I used to love Destiny 1 Crucible, but I don't really care much for Destiny 2 Crucible. Just in my personal opinion, I don't like the crazy movement that people do. I've never really been a fan of most movement. Like, I can tolerate it in like Call of Duty, but I can't really tolerate it with Destiny. It's just a different beast altogether. So I can't really speak on Crucible, but I just know Crucible and Destiny 2, I don't enjoy it as much as what I did back in Destiny 1. And it might just be because the movement's a little bit faster and it's hard to keep up with people, or I might be just getting old. I may be just a fucking boomer over here just complaining about people just being better than me. And then you got Gambit, which came out back in Forsaken, and it has not gotten any content support. And it's getting a map, or it got a map back that, was originally in the game that they took away. And then you had all of the sunsetting that happened, where it took away most of the strikes, it took away most of the Crucible maps, it took away most of the fucking Gambit maps, which it took pretty much all of them except for like 2 or 3. You're not giving the core playlists enough love and attention. Yeah, you're getting dungeons, which, okay, dungeons are cool, but you have to pay a whole $20 pass just to be able to get access to the 2 dungeons, where originally they were included. At least the first dungeon was included with DLC for both Forsaken, and the one for Shadowkeep was free with the Season of Arrivals. You paid for it during Season of Arrivals, and then ever since then they've been forcing you to pay for the content pass, which on top of the microtransactions, the cosmetics, and the ornaments, and the transmog system, everything is just built to like squeeze as much money out of the player as humanly possible. And the way their model is now, I really wouldn't recommend getting into Destiny at this point. And I kind of wish, well, I can always hope that things will get better, but with the way Bungie's been going anymore these days, I can't sit here and honestly say it's going to get better. And they're changing their content model for Frontiers, where they're going to be dropping Rise of Iron / Shadowkeep size expansions like every 6 months. So we're getting 2 medium-sized expansions every year. And I don't know what they're doing with the seasonal system. I don't know if they're planning on having like seasonal content dripped in between to kind of keep us occupied, or if they're just going to have like all that content for that, and then you have to wait so long before the next expansion comes out. If anybody knows, leave it in the comments section below, because I don't remember seeing anything about it if they were going to be doing any more seasonal or episodic content after the DLC drops. And I know they're going through and overhauling the armor system, which is nice. Like, they're going through and changing how armor works and doing away with a lot of pointless stats, making it to where you can put 200 points into, like, you know, discipline, strength, or what have you to, I think, have a chance of it not consuming like a melee or a grenade charge or something like that. I kind of hope they do something a little bit different. That just seems very generic with a already heavily ability spammy meta. Like the power, like, I hate saying power creep because I don't really believe in power creep. Like, I feel like things should be strong for a reason and other things should be brought up to that level. Like, most of the exotics that we have in Destiny 2 right now are all focused around PvP activities. And, like, you have some that are beneficial in PvE, and then most of the time all those get nerfed because people use them, and it's like, okay, well, there's nothing else good that synergizes well with that build. And now you have, like, all these, like, they just went through and did a whole bunch of exotic tuning in this previous, or in just this previous TWAB this past Thursday. They're going through and nerfing Speaker Sight, which is, you know, your support player's dream. And they're going through and making it to where it doesn't target healthy players and allowing you to generate more orbs. Why? That's kind of the whole point, is so that way you're constantly always healing your team. You're being that support character. But at least you're still able to go through and either use Lumina or even the support frame, which they are buffing support frames. And hopefully they get more. Hopefully we get more support frames added. Maybe we can get some that can maybe apply like a damage buff or something to that extent outside of just healing. Maybe we might be able to get some with stasis. Maybe if we get like a stasis like support frame that can apply like frost armor for resilience. Like, I feel like they could do a lot with support frames. But they are doing some interesting changes. Like, Darcy's getting a change to its like catalyst to where it's going to be pretty much like the Gallahorn of snipers, so, like, buffing up other snipers, and it's getting a 15% damage buff with that. And I think snipers are getting buffed again, if I'm remembering right. But I don't know. Like, Destiny itself, I want to be hyped for it. Like, I've played Destiny for so long. I love Destiny. I love the story. I loved everything about Destiny whenever I started getting more into it and, like, watching lore videos from Byth and Myland or whatever his name is, and watching, like, Cross and all them doing their thing, and Dado, and watching the crazy challenges back in Destiny 1 where they were doing, like, you know, Scorch the Earth with Dado's, like, War Priest challenge whenever they brought back, like, Dragon's Breath in Destiny 1 and brought it back up to power in, what was it, the April update? It sounds right, but I could be completely wrong. It was definitely before Rise of Iron dropped, but I can only hope that Destiny gets better because I want to play more Destiny, but with the way the current, like, episodic model is, there's not much of a reason for anybody to jump into Destiny and play it. And even looking right now, like, the past, like, 2 hours, you only have 17,239 people currently playing Destiny 2, at least on the Steam charts. Who knows what it's like on console? And even watching, like, a small streamer, like, she was going through and doing, like, competitive, like, she only does, like, competitive multiplayer and everything. And even then, she was sitting there in, like, queue for like 5-10 minutes, and you were getting the same people every game. So if that's not telling you, like, your competitive scene is definitely, like, your player count is low whenever you're seeing the same people in a competitive match over and over, that just tells you something, that the player base is not doing well with this game. And who knows if it will even last until Frontiers even drops here later this summer, because we still have Heresy that's going to be coming out here in the next couple weeks, I think. I don't know when the season's going to end for Revenant. And the whole thought or story process is us going through and rebuilding the Dreadnought to go into Frontiers. And we're going to be dealing with, like, a new alien race and everything. And I don't know what it's going to be about just yet. Who's our big bad? Who are we going to probably be dealing with? I have a feeling it's probably going to be, what's her name? The other sister from Oryx and Savathun. I'm drawing a blank. Zivu Arath. maybe we're going to be dealing with her. Maybe we're going to finally kill her off, and maybe we might actually see her. She is mortal now. We did sever her from her throne world back in Season of the Witch, but we'll see what ends up happening. But if I had to, if anybody who's watching this is going through the same thing as me with Destiny and everything, and if you're really looking for something to get into, definitely check out Warframe. A lot of the other big content creators in Destiny, like Astacross, Lucky, and most of these content creators have started migrating over to Warframe. And I would definitely say, if you were on the fence about playing Warframe, definitely check it out. And if anybody's interested, I have at least a year's worth of time in Warframe. I do have a little over 300 hours. And I'd be happy to make just basic guides showing you how to play the game and everything. That would give me a reason to record a little bit more too. I have another talking point that I'll be talking about next weekend, and it's definitely going to be more Battlefield related. But if anybody's interested in seeing more Warframe content, please let me know in the comments, and I would be happy to do streams or gameplay recordings and stuff like that. I think that's going to be all for me. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm really hoping that Destiny comes out of this dark age that it's really in right now, and they really need to start doing more so the core activities and adding stuff into the game that's better for the players, make the player experience better for new lights and veteran players. Because for us veteran players that have been playing for 10 years now, we already have most of everything. We have the exotics, we have the best armor, we have the best builds, we have everything that we could possibly imagine. And then whenever we take it into basic level content, it just blows through everything. And then whenever you go into anything higher, it just feels like it tanks. At least for my builds, I'm not trying to set up for anything stupid crazy. I'm not trying to do Grandmaster content all the time. I'm not trying to do master level content all the time, even though that is the end game. I like just having I like having hard content, but not artificially hard content. Stuff that hinders the player and makes it harder to get through a activity that you've already done 1,000 times before, but because everything has more health, does more damage, and you have to stun and use specific weapons because it's a part of the seasonal artifact and having to do all that stuff, I'm just not for it. I'm sick and tired of it. It needs to go away, and I doubt they will. I really doubt they'll get rid of it. I can always hope with my hopium and shit, but we'll see what ends up happening in the future. You never know. Maybe with the going into Frontiers, maybe they might do a shake up with the end game content. We can always hope. We don't know anything other than they're going to be reworking the armor. So I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.